The Mountain is You by Brianna Wiest. Brianna Wiest's The Mountain is You is fundamentally a book about self-sabotage. The patterns people repeat even when those patterns interfere with the lives, careers, relationships, and futures they consciously say they want. Its central argument is that these behaviors are rarely random failures of discipline. They often exist because they are meeting needs that have not been recognized or addressed. For leaders and professionals, this creates an important distinction. Progress does not always require more knowledge, ambition, or effort. Sometimes the greatest constraint is the collection of beliefs, emotional patterns, habits, and protective behaviors operating beneath conscious intentions. Self-sabotage is usually serving a purpose. One of the book's most important ideas is that self-sabotage should be understood before it is eliminated. A person may consciously want advancement while simultaneously behaving in ways that make advancement less likely, because some part of the current behavior provides security, familiarity, protection, or emotional relief. Procrastination, for example, may appear to be a time management problem, but greater efficiency will not necessarily solve it if delaying important work protects someone from the possibility of failure. Perfectionism can look like commitment to excellence while actually functioning as protection from criticism, uncertainty, or exposure. This changes the way recurring problems should be diagnosed. When capable people repeatedly know what they should do but fail to do it, simply demanding greater discipline may address the symptom without addressing the mechanism producing it. For leaders, the concept extends beyond personal development. Organizations can exhibit similar patterns when they claim to want innovation but punish failure, seek accountability while avoiding difficult conversations, or pursue growth while protecting outdated systems and responsibilities. Emotional intelligence creates better information. Understanding those hidden needs requires emotional intelligence. Wiest treats emotions not merely as reactions to control, but as information that can reveal beliefs, expectations, unresolved experiences, and areas where internal reality conflicts with external circumstances. This is especially relevant in leadership because authority does not eliminate emotion, it increases the consequences of managing it poorly. An executive who cannot distinguish between feeling threatened and actually facing a threat can make defensive decisions, resist legitimate criticism, micromanage capable people, or interpret disagreement as disloyalty. Emotional intelligence therefore requires separation between an internal reaction and the action that follows it. Anger, anxiety, embarrassment, disappointment, and defensiveness can be acknowledged without automatically allowing them to determine behavior. For leaders, this creates a valuable diagnostic principle. Strong emotional reactions deserve examination before they become decisions. Self-mastery does not require suppressing emotion. It requires understanding emotion well enough that it becomes useful information rather than an uncontrolled operating system. Familiarity can compete with growth. Another important theme is the tension between what people consciously desire and what feels psychologically familiar. Improvement can be uncomfortable precisely because it requires entering circumstances for which previous patterns no longer provide reliable instructions. A professional may genuinely want greater responsibility but become uncomfortable when increased visibility accompanies promotion. An entrepreneur may want growth but continue controlling decisions that should be delegated because being indispensable feels safer than building an organization that can operate without constant intervention. This helps explain why success itself can create resistance. Reaching a new level often requires surrendering behaviors, identities, relationships, and assumptions that were useful at an earlier stage. Leadership development therefore involves more than acquiring capabilities. It requires allowing identity to evolve alongside responsibility. The habits that produced early career success can eventually become constraints. The highly responsive manager must learn strategic patience. The technical expert must become comfortable relying on others. The founder who personally solves every problem must develop systems and people capable of solving problems independently. The past should inform the present, not govern it. Wiest also emphasizes the importance of releasing patterns rooted in previous experiences. Human beings naturally use the past to interpret the present, but experiences that once taught useful forms of protection can eventually produce responses that no longer fit current circumstances. A leader who previously experienced betrayal may become excessively controlling. Someone who was rewarded primarily for individual achievement may struggle to delegate after entering management. A professional who learned that mistakes create embarrassment may avoid the calculated risks required for innovation. The objective is not to erase previous experience. Experience provides judgment, pattern recognition, and wisdom, but it becomes limiting when an old lesson is automatically applied to a new environment without examining whether the original conditions still exist. This is where resilience becomes more sophisticated than simply enduring difficulty. Resilience involves developing confidence that discomfort, uncertainty, criticism, and setbacks can be processed without retreating into familiar but counterproductive behavior. Build the future through repeated behavior. Recognizing self-sabotage is valuable, but awareness alone does not produce transformation. Wiest ultimately moves toward self-mastery, where behavior becomes increasingly aligned with the person someone intends to become rather than the patterns they have historically repeated. For executives, this principle is especially significant because leadership identity is ultimately demonstrated behaviorally. A leader does not become more strategic by intending to think strategically, more empowering by valuing delegation, or more accountable by discussing accountability. Repeated actions gradually establish a new operating pattern. Delegating meaningful responsibility develops trust. Addressing difficult issues promptly strengthens accountability. Protecting focused thinking time reinforces strategic leadership. And responding constructively to disagreement strengthens emotional discipline. The mountain is therefore climbed through accumulation. Transformation occurs when better responses become sufficiently consistent that old patterns no longer determine the direction of behavior. Business applications. Applied to organizations, the mountain is you suggests that leaders should look beneath persistent performance problems rather than assuming every problem results from insufficient competence or effort. Repeated organizational behavior often survives because some part of the existing system continues to reward or protect it. The same principle applies to executive development. As responsibility increases, leaders must continuously examine whether behaviors that once produced success have become barriers to the next stage of organizational growth. Self-mastery consequently becomes an organizational capability as well as a personal one. Leaders who can recognize defensive reactions, question outdated assumptions, tolerate productive discomfort, and deliberately change their own behavior are better positioned to create cultures capable of doing the same. Actionable takeaways. The enduring lesson from the mountain is that repeated behavior deserves curiosity before judgment. When actions consistently conflict with stated goals, the contradiction may reveal an unmet need, protective mechanism, outdated belief, or identity that has not evolved with current ambitions. Emotional reactions should likewise be treated as information rather than instructions. Leaders improve their judgment when they can recognize what they are feeling, understand what may be driving it, and then choose a response appropriate to present circumstances. Growth also requires accepting that greater capability often creates greater discomfort before it creates greater confidence. Delegation, visibility, accountability, uncertainty, and change may initially feel unnatural precisely because they require leaving established patterns behind. Ultimately, Wiest's mountain metaphor reframes development as an internal leadership challenge. External obstacles certainly matter, but lasting progress often depends on becoming capable of handling the opportunities, responsibilities, and uncertainty that exist on the other side of those obstacles. The mountain is not simply something standing in the way. It represents the internal transformation required to reach the next level and remain there. If this summary helped sharpen your thinking, like the video, subscribe to 10-Minute Leadership, and enable notifications. Wiest, Brianna. The Mountain is You. Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery. Thought Catalog Books, 2020.